Hey guys, it's Blake from WRTHY. Excited to be back here for another Serum tutorial. Today we're going to be walking through a sound that we use quite frequently in our productions. It's a pretty simple Serum preset for a brass sound. And so I'll go ahead and play this sound so you can get a feel for it. All right, so as you can see, there is actually two sounds going on here, one of which is just kind of a lower, almost like bass, kind of like brass sound, and then the other is a higher lead sound. These are actually both generated from the same patch with just some minor tweaks. So at the end, I'll walk through how you can adjust the sound to kind of get some variation in the brass sound. But for now, we're just going to walk through the basic preset, kind of build this sound up from scratch. So let's go ahead and pop open a fresh patch of Serum here. All right, so for oscillator A, we're going to leave this guy at the default. You could use a different saw waveform if you'd like, but just some sort of saw waveform here. And then let's go ahead and bop the octave down 1 and push this unison voice up to 2. And then let's bring the detune down to about 0.05. Sweet, leave that guy there. And then let's turn on oscillator B, and let's turn on, or set this to analog basic MG, and then drop the octave down 2. Then we're going to take the wavetable position and push it all the way up to the top to get kind of this square, notch-esque kind of waveform here. And then that's all we need to do for the oscillators. So I'll go ahead and play this so you can get a feel for kind of what the bass of the sound sounds like. All right, so not quite sounding brassy yet, but let's go ahead and turn this filter on. Let's route both oscillators A and B through the filter. And then let's take our LFO1 here and drag and drop him onto the cutoff. So to switch this this range here from kind of like plus or minus max range to 0 to max range, let's do Shift and Alt and then click, and then you can see it shift over here. And then let's pull this cutoff all the way down to 0, and then push the range all the way up to max there. Then for the actual waveform itself, let's drag this over to somewhere between this first and second line here. You can kind of play with it to see how much of that like initial slope you want on the attack. But for me, I'm going to put it right up against this first line there. And then I'm also going to set this to envelope instead of off or trigger. And this is just going to ensure that this waveform is only going to be applied once as we play the note. So go ahead and play that so you can get a feel for how it's developing. So you can hear that this is really giving it kind of the brassy shape. If you think about an instrumentalist like playing a note, they do kind of have like a puff of air, and then there's usually a bit of like some attack and decay to that note. And so that's kind of what we're generating here, is just a little bit of that that general shape of a normal brass player. One other thing we do want to do in this first envelope here, let's go ahead and push the attack up just a little bit. This is kind of to help with mimicking more of a real-life instrument, as whenever you go to play a real instrument, you have to put air into it. That air has to then resonate around in the instrument, and then the sound comes out. So there's usually like a little bit of a delay. It's not like the most smooth, hard, you have maximum sound right away. It's kind of like you get that little ramp into it. So we emulate that a little bit here in the envelope attack, and then more so with this filter and the LFO1 here. And so you can play with this too if you want a sharper attack. You can pull this guy all the way over here to the left. It'll be like right on the note, or you can have like kind of a longer attack. So those are all different ways to kind of modify that guy. And we'll keep the rate at a 4th right now. You can adjust this as well if you want to have like bigger, more swelly notes, or if you want just very staccato, quick notes. We'll leave that there for now. So let's go ahead and open the filter section. Or not filter section, the effects section. And the 3 effects we're going to be using today is distortion, compressor, and reverb. So I'll turn these 2 guys off for now. So for the distortion, we're not going to do anything with the filtering here, pre or post. We are going to push the drive up to about 69%. Okay, nice. And then we're going to drop LFO1 onto this drive as well, and then we're going to give it a range of about 20 or so. And what this is going to do is give it a little bit more distortion on the initial attack, and then have that distortion pull back just a little bit as the note kind of decays. I'll go ahead and play that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and turn on this compressor here. Let's turn on the multiband compression, and then let's pull our threshold down just a little bit, maybe about -16 or so dB, and then bring our ratio all the way down to 1, and then our attack and release are going to be pretty small, so about 6 or so for the attack, and then about 8 or so for the release, but anywhere in that kind of like small range is good enough. Let's go ahead and play that. All right, so the last piece to this is going to be the reverb. So we can keep it as Hall reverb. Drop the size to about 30% or so. You can always adjust this based on how much width you want your sound to have. And then for the decay, let's drop this down to about 3 seconds. Let's boost our low cut up a little bit, maybe about 25% or so, kind of keep the low end from getting too muddy. And then we can leave our high cut at about 35%, and then spin and spin depth can be left alone as well. We are also going to push the mix up somewhere between 40 and 50%. Should be good. I'm going to put mine at around 50% for the time being. And then this should pretty well be the sound. Let's go ahead and play it. So as you can see, it's got a lot more fullness to it. The reverb kind of brings out a little bit more resonance. It doesn't make it quite as harsh. And so that's pretty well the base of the sound as is. I'll go ahead and play it in context again so you can hear this. All right, so as you can see, there is a couple of ways to modify this sound as well. So one thing to do is to play with this LFO1 to really get the shape of the sound how you like it. As I was saying before, you can pull this attack closer or farther, depending on if you want more of a swell, or if you want more of like a close-up, just choppy attack. You can also adjust the rate. So if you do more of that swell, you might want to slow down the rate so you get a big long drag out there. Another thing you can do is adjust the tension here. So if you want the note to kind of hang on a little bit longer, have a little bit more kind of like depth to it as it plays, then you can keep it like this. So it's a little more sustained, I should say, rather than depth to the note there. And then the other thing you can do is play with these octaves as well as unison voices. I find it pretty beneficial to have at least one mono channel down the middle and then something happening on the sides. So maybe an odd number of unison voices on one side and an even number on the other side. So you get that distinction of always having at least one of these unison voices be centered for the odd number of voices there, or kind of like spread out to the sides for the even numbers here. As far as this other lower brass sound goes, it's basically the same sound, but I did go ahead and tweak this envelope to where I added an extra point here by double-clicking to make sure that it only decays off a little bit, and then I made this a little bit more, their attack a little bit closer, but then I also slow down the rate quite a bit to kind of allow it to slowly drop off over the course of a bar, or maybe 2 bars, or even longer if you so choose. And then I just play the sound in a bit of a lower range here. Oh, maybe not quite that low. So it's kind of a fun sound in and of itself. You can, of course, always pull this cutoff up or down if you don't want it to be have quite as much of the highs in there. You can also have the cutoff pulled up higher, so whenever it does eventually drop off to this far end, in the event of it being a shorter note, it can still hang on there and you can still have the sound sustain instead of stop completely. So lots of different ways you can play with this. You can, of course, always add your own macros to these, so you can adjust the rate more easily in terms of automation and such. Or you can add different effects and things to kind of spice up the sound. But as is, it's a very simple, easy intro to a brass sound. So I hope that you guys can find some use for this in your productions. And if you see something that I could do better or that would maybe bring this sound to life a little bit more, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, that's all that I have for today. I'll play this one more time and leave it at that. All right, thank you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.